If they say like, oh yeah, I'm like 1/10 Spanish, you can call me Latina, you know what's up. They're in that colonial mindset.
So like I struggled with like English for like a while. That's why I was like, oh, I hate being Vietnamese for when I was young.
I wasn't white enough to be Australian, but I wasn't Asian enough to be Vietnamese.
I remember like during dinner, I'll just start eating with a fork instead of chopsticks. And that was not my proudest moment.
Sometimes I do wish I was Bay Area Vietnamese because those guys really ride for being Vietnamese. Like the Kevin Ewan memes, they came from the Bay Area, not Australia.
Interracial relationships are still a taboo topic in many Vietnamese Australian families. 3, 2, 1.
I feel like it's not taboo because my parents, for example, like they're like, oh, mixed kids are so pretty. So I don't think like from where I grew up, like on how my parents raised me, like we're more accepting than maybe other cultures, for example.
Yeah, personally, my family has never really cared for that. Like, my current partner is not Vietnamese, but they love him. Like, they've never ever mentioned anything about any race or who I've chosen to be with, because that's my decision as well, and they know that, and they respect me as well as I respect them.
I definitely don't think it's taboo in our culture, especially when we've been colonized by the French. We have a lot of mixed people in Vietnam. And I think also my family, growing up, we were very privileged as well to be so open-minded. I have a lot of mixed cousins and family members in the family, so growing up that was just the norm for me. So when I went to school and realised that other people's families didn't have, like, you know, mixed cultures in their family, I was like, wait, what? Am I adopted? But I think the only concern when it comes to our culture would be being able to speak the language and understand the cultures and traditions when we speak to our elders or when we go back home and, you know, our partner or our friend can't speak the language. I think that's the only time that it's a concern. Other than that, the Viets love mixed children.
Yeah, I feel like being here in Australia, at least, like, our parents are very, very progressive. They're open to it. If you were back home, Vietnam, maybe a bit less. We're here, you know, everyone speaks English, and our parents, they just want to adapt. They just want to be part of Australia, so they're open to anything.
My fault, I'm actually standing on the wrong side. I think it's still like a taboo topic. Like, I think nowadays, like, you know, because with the new generation, like, yeah, maybe the parents might feel a bit more pressure to like say like, oh, it's like they might act like it's okay, but I think, look, we're the first generation to start interacting with other cultures. Like, that generation, they're still behind. I remember, like, I don't know if you guys are going to include this in the edit, but because my dad's a very angry man, sometimes I like to test his limits, and I just started saying like, oh, I'm dating this white girl. I've never met her before. She's some random. I'm like, oh, I'm dating this white girl, to see his reaction, just to see if he gets mad or something. Yeah, no, they're definitely behind. My dad, like, when I was like in grade 2, was already telling me like, go for a Viet girl, and I think that's because like Viets have like a lot of pride in their culture, because you were saying that like we got colonized by the French, but we're one of the few Asian countries that were able to fight back against our colonizers, even though we were a really small country. There's some countries out there, Asian countries, that were colonized by like people after people after people. That's why sometimes you see an Asian person come up to you, and if you hear them say like, I'm 1/20th like Spanish, if they say like, oh yeah, I'm like 1/10 Spanish, you can call me Latina, you know what's up. They're in that colonial mindset. But to clarify, I believe in interracial relationships. I just think that our, especially the elders in our culture, they have a long way to get there.
Love that, Will. Love it. Look, on my dad's side, pretty much all my cousins, all their husbands and the wives, they're actually all interracial. So for myself, I think I'm the only one that's going to be going for an Asian, just to sort of keep other culture there as well. So I definitely do see that there's a huge progression towards interracial relationships. Even on my mum's side, have a whole bunch as well. So I definitely think it's been accepted, especially with, you know, our parents being here for so many years. They've just learnt to also change their sort of cultural shift as well.
It's important to maintain the Vietnamese language across generations. 3, 2, 1.
So I think it's really important because if I have a partner, like I want them to be able to speak to my grandparents as well, or like having conversation with my parents because they don't know a lot of English. Because my partner, he doesn't know a lot of Vietnamese, so sometimes like I have to teach him to like words in Viet to that he can talk to my parents or my grandparents, and then like. For me, like in the future, if I have kids, like I want to teach them Vietnamese, make them go Vietnamese school, because my brother like quit Vietnamese school, and then he doesn't know a lot of like Vietnamese compared to me, because like I'm the translator in the house.
So I'm part of it, and I don't really speak Vietnamese, and that is something that I kind of regret, like my mum not teaching me like full Viet. So sometimes I do have like trouble speaking Viet to certain people. So I think maintaining the language is very important, just so that you don't feel left out. Because growing up as a kid, I did feel left out not knowing the language.
Yeah, I always tell my partner our kids will have to know Vietnamese, even though he doesn't know a word. But I want to maintain the culture within my family too. Also, like, seeing as my brother couldn't speak Viet and he couldn't interact with my grandparents as much, it showed me a lot, which is why I want my kids to know how to speak Vietnamese so they could talk to my parents. And I think it's just a really good skill to have too, knowing a second language. I feel like it's useful in just like general day-to-day. You could even travel to the country and know the language. It's just a good skill to have, like in jobs as well.
I think it's all very clear that we're very proud of our culture, and I think it is important to be able to speak the language. Again, it comes down to your family and your roots and how strict they are to implement that growing up. I know for me growing up that was like vital in my family. It was a red flag if you couldn't speak the language, and anyone that came into our family better be learning it. So you better be going to school on Saturday to learn Viet. And I think another thing is being able to connect with the country and the community. It's a beautiful thing when they realize that you can speak the language. I know when I go back home, it's so impressive to them when they realize that we can speak it. And I think even here, when they're visiting the country and you can see them struggle a bit in the shopping centre or something, and then you realise that you can help them, it's such a beautiful feeling, and I think I'll definitely be carrying that into my family and to my kids as well.
Yeah, those are really great points. If you can't speak the language, you can connect with your country, and I think that's a very important to go back to roots. In saying that too, there's so much more than language as well. Like, yes, you can speak the language, but I think you still have to remember what it stands for, the culture, remember the culture, and going back to that respect as well. So I think both are equally important.
So Viet was my first language. So I couldn't speak English when I first went to school. I was born and raised there. So I was actually an ESL kid, which surprises people. I would like to learn Viet more because when my parents split, I lived with my mom and she told us to speak to her only in English so she could learn English. So I lost it over time, and I've always planned on learning Viet so that I can go back to Vietnam and learn about my culture. And my plan is that's going to give me insight into my parents and why they are the way they are, because they do a lot of stuff that I'm sure I completely goes over my head that I don't understand. My mom's write poetry. She was a journalist in Vietnam. I can't read anything she writes. So I plan on learning Viet even more.
Yeah, I definitely think it is definitely important, definitely for your roots as well, getting to know your roots, where your parents also came from, your ancestors. I feel like just in terms of culturally, if my ancestors are watching and I did not know Vietnamese, I don't think they'll be very happy about that. But yeah, it's definitely, feel like with my younger brother, he doesn't speak that much Vietnamese as opposed to myself. And I definitely feel like there's a broken connection between, say, like my grandma and him. They don't speak as much just because of the language barrier. So very important to definitely know your roots, I reckon.
I love being Vietnamese Australian. 3, 2, 1.
Like when I was young, somewhere along the way, I kind of like afraid to be Viet, because I don't know, because I was born in Vietnam and I grew up here, raised here, So it was Vietnamese was my first language and English was second language. So like I struggled with like English for like a while. That's why I was like, oh, I hate being Vietnamese for when I was young. But now like I'm kind of proud of my culture. Like everyone talks about it, and like Vietnamese like beauty is like different to like other Asians. Like everyone's pretty, but like I'm proud of like my skin color and like my food like cultures, because like everything it's just like everyone just talks about it now compared to like back then when I was younger.
Yeah, so I agree with that statement. Although growing up at one point, I guess I wasn't 100% too proud because I felt different. Going to school, that stuff, I felt different. You know, the way my hair looked, and there'll be times when I'll be like the only Viet person and I felt out of place. But the older I grow, I've accepted that, and I'm there that now, you know, I've seen that Melbourne's changed so much with the food scene. Go back to food scene as well. 10 years ago, we didn't have that much Asian food around, but now we've got so much of everything. I feel more at home. Although at the start I didn't. So now I've started to accept that and feel that I am proud to be Vietnamese.
So growing up, I was actually in a white dominant school. So I actually grew up with all the white kids as well, all the Europeans. And look, definitely I did face some racism as well about my race. And back then I was like unproud. I wasn't proud about being Vietnamese. Now, as I actually got older, you know, I learned life took me on some crazy rides, and look, I'm just proud to be me, and I'm proud, you know, to be who I am today and my roots, and that just makes me. So I'm totally proud about that.
Yeah, I think everyone just had a different experience. I grew up in a pretty multicultural school, kindergarten and all that. A lot of my teachers were also like Asian. I've never faced racism or anything really, and I had like a lot of friends in primary school, so I never got to experience like racism, so I don't have that. I've never had to face like, oh, I don't like being Asian because they're bullying me. Like, I've just had a great experience growing up, which I'm really thankful for, because my area is really multicultural and inclusive.
I have very mixed opinions about this statement because I think growing up, I was always bullied and I never really felt like I fit into any category. So I wasn't white enough to be Australian, but I wasn't Asian enough to be Vietnamese. So being in an environment where you're being picked on and experiencing racism, you're gonna feel like you don't want to be Viet. You want to change how you look, how you speak, everything. And I've had so many offers on like, oh, do you want to change your look? Like, I'll give you surgery to look like a European. Like, that goes back to show that there's a certain part of Asians that don't feel proud to truly be themselves, and that's really sad. But I do see a massive change in like this day and age, especially with our generation, pushing for the beauty standards to be different. And I think growing up now after traveling and being in a different environment where they do place our race as a higher standard in the beauty world, like it feels good. Like it feels good to be seen. And I think a big thing in becoming who I am now is pushing for representation. So growing up, I don't think I saw anyone that looked like me, and that caused me to make a change in that. So in hindsight, I feel like it was a double-ended sword, and now I am very proud to be Viet Australian, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, just piggybacking off like what a couple of people said, I think most people of color in general, most kids, like they at one point or another compare themselves to white kids. I know I went to 6 different schools, and the last few schools I went to were white. So I remember comparing myself to white people, wishing I was white. It was a very embarrassing phase of my life, but I've grown past that, and yeah, I think. Sorry, what was the question? I don't know, sometimes I do wish I was Bay Area Vietnamese, because those guys really ride for being Vietnamese. Like the Kevin Ewan memes, they came from the Bay Area, not Australia.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with a lot of people, like what they've said. Just to add on that, I definitely do relate with wanting to be white, like growing up. I remember like during dinner, I'll just start eating with a fork instead of chopsticks, and that was not my proudest moment. But I think as I have, I guess, become much more older, and because Melbourne and Australia itself, there's a lot more diverse cultures here, which kind of makes me think that, oh wow, like, you know, we've welcomed a lot of people in this country, and it's okay to be, you know, where you're from. So I think I've come out of my shell a little bit more, and I really do like our culture and our celebrations that we have. So I guess when you grow older, you learn to appreciate what you have.
And on that note, hug it out. Episode done.